Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by and welcome to another round of the Project Orchids, 2022 Project Orchids. Project started back in March and has followed a format all the way through. The format being, we've got 3 groups and 3 plants in each, and basically we started off by filming the 3 plants in group 1. In update 1 we brought those clips forward and filmed them again, so we've now got 6 clips. You can see where I'm going with this, can't you? But then when we got to update 2 we brought the clips from update 1 forward and filmed them again. We've still only got 6 clips, haven't we? We're now at update 3 and I will bring forward the 3 clips from update 2 and film them as they are today. That's the format for each group right the way through. Now you can see where I'm leading, can't you? Because when we get to the last update in November, my idea was to bring all the clips together for each plant and play them one after the other in the group. It's not going to work. I think those videos will be far too long. So what I plan on doing in the final update in November is, yes, I will bring all the clips, so that'll be March, May, July, now, and the final clip for each plant, but not in their groups. I'll do it a plant at a time. So you get a video of the progress of an individual orchid from March through to the end of the growing season. That means there will be 9 videos. Yeah? Rather than just the 3, group 1, group 2, group 3. So that's how the final update will be. And I think that will work an awful lot better than trying to squash it all in. So we'll end up having a sequence of clips for an individual orchid taking you right through the season with all my thoughts on progress, failures. I mean, some might be shorter videos than others because they disappeared. I don't think we've actually lost any this time, but we certainly did last year. So anyway, back to today. This is group 1, same 3 plants, bring forward the clips from July, film them as they are today and discuss what I would like to happen for the rest of the season, which will take us, into November, which will be the end of the growing season. Although I'll put a proviso, there's some of the plants in these 3 groups that started growing very late and may still be growing in November. Got a whole different setup going on here compared with the previous place, so it's a bit unpredictable at times. Anyway, let's get going with plant 1 in group 1. Right, before I start on the first plant, you'll see that I've made some adjustments to the backdrop. I've got holes in it so that I can use the hooks, and I've extended it out of there because a lot of people have said that the view through there is distracting when I'm trying to talk about something specific. Unfortunately, I've still got the wall showing at that end. This is a particularly big plant, but if I sort of get into there, it's virtually all backdrop. And somebody suggested, which is a very good idea, why don't I make a screen so that I've got something permanent that I can just sit on the edge of the table that goes, as high and as wide as I want. Well, good idea, but I've then got to find somewhere to store it. Yeah, but it is a good idea. I'm working on that. Right, back to the plants. My plans for this were to get at least 2 new growths, possibly more, and to get them growing to full size during this season, plus a new root system. So far what we've got is the little kiki that I planted up has started a new growth. Whether that can get big enough to bloom or not, I doubt, but it probably will the year after. So this year we just grow the kiki growth on as best it can. My 2 new growths, just the 2, are pushing on nicely, and we do have new root activity. It's only just started, late, and down the bottom here, for future reference, we have 2 more kikis. Now, every time I water the plant, I make sure they get some water to encourage the roots to grow, and as soon as they're big enough and have a little mini root system of their own, they'll go back up on the top as well, the same as this one did, and then they can add to the volume of the plant. So my hopes for this throughout the growing season are to push these two new canes as hard as I can and get them as long as I can, because those are next spring's blooms. So so far so good with this one. Okay, here we go with plant number 1 then. But before we start, having had a chat in the clip prior to this one about the backdrop, it's still not good enough, not in my opinion. So what I've actually done is I've bought a backdrop, a proper backdrop, and it's got a place for a rod to go through the top, and then the rod can go over the hooks. And I will design it in such a way that it comes around the corner, at least as far as the light, so we can remove a bit of the brickwork. And it's a big backdrop, and it will come down and over the table. So I only need one piece, because at the moment I'm using 2. My only problem with it was when it arrived it was folded, quite tightly packed, and although it said you should be able to rinse it and the creases will drop out, they didn't. So Hannah's taken it home to iron it, and then she will loosely fold it to bring it back down again. So we should have a backdrop for the next lot of filming, but not for this one. Right, back to Dendrobium Nestor. When we looked at this last time, we had a little kiki here that was just starting a new growth. Well, the new growth has pushed on, so it's grown, and that will give the basis of a plant to produce a nice strong new growth next year. And it's actually produced some roots into the moss. So that was that. Down the bottom we had a couple of kikis as well. Well, we've now got a couple more. We've actually got 4. So this one and this one were the 2 that were just showing last time round, so they've grown on. This would be big enough to detach now. But I'd rather do it in the spring when it's liable to push up a new growth as part of the kiki. Same with this one, so we'll leave them there. And then we got a couple of new ones just starting as well. But that's got nothing to do with getting this to flower next year. That's the 2 new growths. Now these growths are nowhere near full size, but they are still growing. They haven't reached a terminal leaf yet. So we've still got time. And what I'm hoping with the dendrobiums that all started growing late, many of them didn't start growing till well towards the end of spring instead of at the start. So they started late, so they've got less of a season to grow. But I think because of the brighter light in here, the season will automatically get extended. Proof of the pudding, we haven't got there yet, but I'm hoping these will carry on growing and get longer than this, which was last year's cane, which was pretty poor. You know, this is the length the cane should be. Yeah? If these 2 get to that long, I'll be surprised and well pleased. But so far, what I wanted from the plant, you know, to get a new growth on the little kiki, get some root activity going, and push these 2 blooming canes on for next year. So we're doing okay with this one. Well, sometimes I do actually crack on with the things I say I'm going to do. So this was on a mount last time we saw it, and it's been unmounted and put in a pot. The idea is that it didn't seem to be growing as well as it should on the mount, but nonetheless it had a good number of new growths which have now got new media. It's a combination of bark and chopped Welsh moss. So the new growths are pushing on okay. We've got one here, one in the middle of the plant there, another one here, another one here, and another one there. They're pushing on okay. I don't see roots getting to the edge of the pot yet, but it hasn't been done long. So you know, basically all I hope now is that these growths produce roots and add to the roots that it already had, which weren't brilliant, but they were there. To get a much better root system and make the plant stronger, and hopefully one of these new growths might actually produce a spike, and then we get to see the blooms on this for the first time in a very, very, very long time. This hasn't bloomed for years. So that's my hopes for this one. Nice mature bulbs, decent root system, and the possibility of a spike on one of those new growths. So let's hope. So the hopes and dreams for plant number 2 have not been fulfilled. Basically, taking this off the mount and putting it in a pot was a sound idea. Nothing wrong with the idea, it just wasn't doing that well on a mount. And as there were plenty of new growths growing, it seemed like a good time to get it in a pot, hoping for a new root system on these new growths. Well, we didn't get one. We didn't get the new root system, and the new growth stalled in most cases basically, and therefore didn't bloom. I would say they didn't stall far off full size, but they didn't mature properly, like you take that little one there. So they also didn't produce a dramatic root system either. There are some roots in the pot, but what they've decided to do now is produce another lot of new growths. So we've got more new growths coming now. So I'm going to apply the same hopes, dreams and wishes to the latest set of new growths. My mouth won't work. I can see 4. I mean, you can see 3 there. There's one towards the left, one on the right hand bulb, tucked on the left hand side of it, and one back in the plant. So there's 3 from that view. And then if you twist round here, there's another 2 there. So we've got 5 new growths coming. I suspect we've got a new growth on the 5 new growths we had last time. So it didn't do what I wanted, but it may well do it this time round. And that's all I can hope for. These new growths have pushed on relatively soon. This plant used to have quite a rest. But so all I can do now is hope that these new growths push on and mature with enough strength in the plant to decide to bloom again. That'll be the day. I've had this years and it hasn't bloomed since I got it, I don't think. I may have had one bloom, one spike since I got it. I got it a very, very long time ago. I mean, there are some roots in the pot, but it's not what I call a root system. So anyway, we'll just have to hope that, that this latest set of growths pushes on. I doubt if they'll push on and bloom by the time we get to the final update in November, but who knows? We'll take a look and see. So that's what that one's up to. And the last one in group 1 is my large strappy Laelia purpurata. And again, I've actually done what I said I was going to do. This has actually been repotted relatively recently. And the reason was there were new growths, and certainly with Cattleyas you're often going to lose a lot of your old root system. This one didn't have much of a root system to lose, so I had nothing to lose in getting it in some new media. The old media was old and tired. So what we've got, 2 plants in here. There's still 2 plants in here. We've got the little plant over here. It's got 2 leaved pseudo bulbs. I strapped those because one of them was hanging out sideways. I'm getting fed up with it knocking things as I move the plant. Nice strong new growth coming up on there. That will produce a new root system for that little plant because it's got next to none. So that's that one. And then round here is the bigger plant. This has actually got 5 pseudo bulbs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all with leaves on. So obviously this is the strong version, and this is the one that's most likely to bloom next because it's just a large sort of portion of the plant. The other one's really to grow on, and this one has its new growth starting, and it did actually have some signs of root activity on some of the old roots as well. So down in the pot there could be some roots growing, but we will get new roots from the new growth. If this is going to bloom, I doubt, but because of the disturbance, but if it's going to bloom, then basically this growth needs to mature and produce a sheath. The sheath on these are large, they almost look like a second leaf. They are large and they go dry, and then the plant sits there and does nothing for an amount of time. Once it's matured the bulb, done the root thing, produced its sheath, if it's going to produce blooms, it must have a sheath. Yeah, so if you get a mature bulb on this without a sheath, it's probably not going to bloom. I don't know of any of these that push buds straight out. They need the sheath. And then they rest. They stop growing, basically. They stop doing everything. And then after their rest, the spike comes. So you've got to allow for that rest. And while they're not growing during that period, don't drown them or you mess your roots up. So hopes for this are the possibility of the larger portion of the plant to bloom, but we'll wait and see. It's okay, it's got 5 bulbs and 5 leaves, but it hasn't got a root system to back them up. So the root system is more important on these 2 plants. Right, that's that. The last one in this group is my tatty Laelia purpurata. And I say tatty because Cattleya leaves last a long time before they drop. So if you get a problem with your leaves, you're stuck with them. And, you know, okay, this leaf is starting to yellow and will drop. It's on a very old pseudo bulb. It's not the end of the world. But it's had some bite from some scale, which leaves the very pale yellow patches. So as it turns yellow to drop off, which is what it will do next, it really does look in a mess. But we got 2 plants in here, and all I could hope for was to get new growths on both pieces and some new roots. Well, this piece over here is behaving itself quite nicely. It's got 3 bulbs and a new growth. So in fact this was the weaker of the 2, but it is pushing up a nice strong new growth. More importantly, roots, and some of those roots have come out of the previous growth as well as under the new growth. So some roots, that was the important thing. Excuse me. The other plant round here, it pushed up a new growth that looked like it was going to fail. It turned yellow, and then out of the top came a green shoot, which has grown on. It's weak, it's not a strong shoot, but then, you know, at least it's got one. It has a new green leaf, and down in there it has some roots as well. So both of these pieces are going to grow on, and that's all I can hope for. This is probably a long way off blooming now. I mean, I've got the light in here, that won't ever be a problem, not in this place. But these growths are well behind what would be the normal schedule. They should have been growing up to full size during this growing season. And then they should rest a bit in the winter and bloom later. That's not going to happen, I doubt, very much. But if we can get 2 growths to mature with some roots, then the next 2 growths should get up to full size. That's the theory. But a lot of it will depend on how many leaves drop on the old bulbs. As I said, there's 2 old bulbs here that have got very tatty leaves on. This one and this one. And they were damaged by scale some time ago, which is what all the pale patches are. And then obviously they're now being discarded. And yeah, we'll go from there. But I mean, it's certainly not my best looking plant by any means. But my other Laelia purpurata I lost, so at least I get to keep this one. So we will see. That's all I can do. Is just it's growing some new growths. It's got some new roots. So all we can do now is let it do its Cattleya type thing and mature the growth as best it can, which probably won't be full size. Get a reasonable root system and patiently wait for the next new growth. And hopefully that one will be bigger and better on both plants. Remember, this is 2 plants in here. So it makes it look like quite a large mature plant, but it isn't. It's 2 quite small plants. And the older parts of the plant were quite desiccated due to the root loss. So that's that one then. So there we go. That's Group 1, Update 3, as in September. Group 2 and Group 3 will follow on in the not too distant future, but it certainly won't be until well into next week for the next one. But they are a set of 3 each time, so we'll work on that. I hope you like this format. This format will take us through to the end of update 3, and then when we get to the final update, as I explained at the beginning of this video, we will have a different format because we'll be doing a video of all the clips put together for each individual plant. So anybody who looks up that plant on the internet hopefully would find a video with the progress of a plant, thoughts on culture and everything for a whole season, which I think might be quite useful. Okay, it's only 9 plants, but you know, can't do them all, can I? Anyway, see you next time for Group 2, Update 3. Bye for now.